Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always excited to explore some new ideas.
Well, today we're tackling something I think a lot of people find kind of fascinating, but also maybe a little intimidating. We're talking life purpose statements.
Ah, yes. Those declarations of, well, what you're all about, what you want your life to stand for in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got this source simply titled Pasted Text. It's got a ton of examples of different purpose statements, which is great. Gives us plenty to dig into.
Sound like a good roadmap for our dive today.
Definitely is. So think of this as your cheat sheet for understanding what makes a good life purpose statement, what kind of the key elements are, and who knows, maybe by the end you'll even be inspired to start crafting your own.
A worthwhile goal, I think. Having a purpose statement can be a really powerful tool.
Totally agree. So should we jump right into our first example?
Yeah, let's see what we've got.
Okay, so this first one really centers on personal growth and self-actualization,
hmm
which I always find inspiring. It talks about living with, quote, curiosity and courage, and continually learning and growing. Basically, using that growth to, in their words, inspire others to embrace their potential and find fulfillment.
I like that. It emphasizes that personal growth isn't a solitary pursuit, you know? It has a ripple effect outward.
Yeah, definitely. That phrase, continually learning and growing, it really resonates with me. But what does that actually look like in practice, in the context of, living with purpose?
Well, I think it boils down to a mindset, really. It's about recognizing that we're never really finished growing. There's
hmm
always something new to learn, a different perspective to consider. So it could involve, I don't know, taking on new challenges, having those tough conversations that push you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, stepping outside those comfort zones. That's where the real growth happens, right?
Absolutely. And ultimately, I think it's about expanding your understanding of yourself and the world around you, always being open to new possibilities.
That's a really good point. It's not about reaching some fixed destination, but more about the journey of learning and discovery, right?
Exactly. And that journey is where the real fulfillment lies.
Totally agree. And it's interesting how this particular statement connects personal growth with inspiring others. Have you seen that kind of ripple effect in your own life? Like when you focus on your own growth, does it naturally lead to inspiring those around you?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you're genuinely invested in your own growth, your passion, your curiosity, it kind of becomes contagious.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, the insights you gain along the way, they can often help others see new possibilities for themselves, maybe even give them the courage to step outside their own comfort zones.
Absolutely. It's like leading by example in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
So our next purpose statement builds on this idea of personal growth, but shifts the focus more towards the impact we have on others, specifically on community. This one's all about, quote, helping others and building community. And what strikes me about this one is the strong action-oriented language it uses. It talks about empowering others, fostering connections, offering support, sharing knowledge. It's very active.
I see what you mean. It's not just about wanting to help, it's about actually taking concrete steps to make a difference.
Right. Why do you think that kind of action-oriented language is so important in a purpose statement?
Well, because it moves beyond good intentions and gives you a blueprint for action. It's like, it's not enough to just say, I want to help. This statement is saying, here's how I plan to help.
I love that. It's so much more powerful and purposeful, right?
Absolutely. And it speaks to the idea that building community is an active process. It requires us to step up and engage in behaviors that actually support and empower others.
hmm And it's interesting to consider this statement in light of everything that's going on in the world right now. There's so much emphasis on, social responsibility and taking care of each other.
For sure. And in a world that can often feel very individualistic, focused on personal gain and ambition, this statement is like a breath of fresh air.
It is. It reminds us that we're all interconnected and that our collective well-being is just as important as our individual pursuits.
It is. It's a call to action, really, to build bridges, support those in need, and strive for a more just and equitable society.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and look at a purpose statement that's more focused on professional impact. This one is all about, quote, career and contribution, and it highlights things like creativity, problem solving, innovation, and making a tangible impact on the world through one's work.
I like how this statement connects personal fulfillment with making a meaningful contribution. It suggests that your career can be more than just a job. It can be a platform for expressing your creativity, solving problems that matter to you.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, especially those just starting out in their careers, are really looking for that sense of purpose in their work. They want to feel like they're contributing to something larger than themselves.
Absolutely. And it speaks to this growing trend of purpose-driven businesses and organizations, you know?
Mhm.
People want to work for companies that align with their values, where they feel like they're making a difference.
Yeah, it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder anymore. It's about finding work that's both personally and professionally fulfilling,
I think that's a really positive shift.
for sure. And speaking of making a difference, this next purpose statement really zeroes in on something that's becoming increasingly important: environmental stewardship. It stresses sustainability, responsible practices, and living in harmony with nature.
This one's a powerful reminder that our actions, even seemingly small ones, have an impact on the environment, and that it's our collective responsibility to care for the planet.
I completely agree. But, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of environmental issues. Like, how can one person really make a difference? What advice would you give to someone who wants to live by this statement but maybe doesn't work directly in an environmental field?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that small changes can add up to make a big difference. It could be simple things like reducing waste in your daily life, being mindful of your consumption habits, choosing eco-friendly products whenever possible, or maybe supporting local farmers and businesses that prioritize sustainability.
Those were all great suggestions, and I think you made a really important point earlier about the collective aspect of this.
Exactly. It's not about any one individual single-handedly saving the planet. It's about all of us doing our part, working together to create a more sustainable future.
Couldn't have said better myself.
Hmm.
Okay, moving on to something a bit more personal. We have a purpose statement that focuses on family and relationships. This one highlights love, understanding, strength, and being a source of guidance for those closest to you.
I think this statement really speaks to the fundamental human need for connection and belonging. Our relationships provide us with love, support, and a sense of purpose that extends beyond ourselves.
I completely agree. And it's interesting how this statement, while primarily focused on personal relationships, can also have a ripple effect outward. When you have strong, healthy relationships in your own life, you're more likely to be a positive force in your community as well.
Absolutely. A stable and loving home environment can be a foundation for individual growth and positive social impact. It all ties together, doesn't it?
It does. Okay, let's dive into a purpose statement that explores a different dimension of purpose: spiritual connection. This one emphasizes living in alignment with your values, seeking deeper understanding of yourself and the world, and cultivating peace and compassion.
This statement resonates with me deeply. I think it speaks to the human longing for meaning and purpose that goes beyond the material world.
Yeah. Spirituality can be a very personal thing. It can mean different things to different people.
Exactly. And this statement allows for that individual interpretation. It's not about subscribing to any particular dogma or belief system. It's about finding what resonates with you on a deeper level and using those principles to guide your actions.
So it's about aligning your inner world with your outer world, so to speak.
Exactly. And living a life that reflects your deepest values and aspirations.
Beautiful. And last but not least, we have a purpose statement that centers on advocacy and justice. This one is all about standing up for what you believe in, fighting injustice, and striving to create a more equitable and kind world.
This statement calls us to engage with the complexities of the world around us and use our voices and actions to create positive change.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in making the world a better place, regardless of our background or social standing. So, after exploring all these different purpose statements, what are some key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember?
Well, first and foremost, your life purpose statement is a personal declaration, not a one-size-fits-all formula. It should reflect your own unique values, passions, and aspirations. Don't feel pressured to copy these examples verbatim. Instead, use them as inspiration to craft a statement that truly resonates with you.
That's so important. It's about finding your own unique voice and purpose.
Exactly. And secondly, remember that crafting a purpose statement is an ongoing process. It's not about finding the perfect words right away. Allow your statement to evolve as you grow and learn.
It's like any creative process, really. It takes
Yeah.
time, exploration, and refinement.
Right. And most importantly, remember that the true power of a purpose statement lies in its ability to guide your choices and actions. It's not just about words on paper. It's about living a life that aligns with your deepest values and aspirations.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
That went by fast.
It always does when you're having a good conversation.
It does. It was great exploring all these different facets of purpose.
Me too. So, for everyone listening, We hope this exploration has given you some food for thought and maybe even sparked some ideas for your own life purpose statement. Remember, it's never too late to define your purpose and start living a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
Well said. And remember, it's not about finding the perfect statement, but rather using it as a compass to guide your choices and actions. Your purpose can evolve as you do, so embrace the journey and see where it takes you.
Great advice to end on. Thanks again for joining us for another deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.
See you then.